Hey everyone, Bear Gruber here, and I am very excited to publish this episode as I was honored to sit down with three remarkable individuals. Taylor Davis, mental health researcher with the University of South Carolina, Marine veteran of the Iraq War and Purple Heart and Combat Action Ribbon recipient Stephen Diaz, as well as my friend and active duty Army National Guard Master Sergeant Andrew Brazzel. This week's episode is sponsored by Transmission Arcade, home of Smoky Loggins. My friend Josh Bumgarner and team create some of the most incredible food in Columbia. We had the benefit of recording on a Sunday and enjoying the brunch menu. It's absolutely incredible, and if you haven't made it there yet, you need to. Only closed on Tuesdays. This is absolutely one of Columbia's gems. 1712 Main Street, Columbia, South Carolina. Thank you very much, Transmission Arcade. Please enjoy this special conversation with these incredible individuals. And while I know that as of this recording, our country is finding itself more divided on the subject of liberties and freedoms, the act of protecting the freedoms we do have has been fought by our service women and men. That service carries a toll, and that's what this episode is about. Thank you very much for listening, and enjoy. This episode of the All About Nothing podcast is recorded live from Transmission Arcade, 1712 Main Street in Columbia, South Carolina. The views expressed on this program are the opinions of the host, and some content and subject matter may not be appropriate. Listener discretion is advised. Listeners are encouraged to follow the show at theallaboutnothing.com to find social media links and more. Listeners can also call the show 803-672-0533. And I want to show my love to Transmission Arcade for letting us come in here and record. Oh, yeah. Because we could have been stuck outside.
It's a little hot, and it's way cooler on multiple levels in here.
Yeah, 91 on a Sunday in June is it feels more like 100. So
and Bumgarner's here. Yeah, the man behind the wings.
Yeah, he's It is the home of Smoky Loggins, which is and we're recording on Sunday, so this episode is going to be released on 4th of July. So happy 4th of July to you all.
Hell yeah! Thank you. Go America!
It has more meaning, I think, having veterans in the room than just firing fireworks off at your home. But the reason that you guys are on is because I want to discuss some of the experiences that you all have had in the military. So I'm joined by Andrew Brazzel as well as Stephen Dais, and we also have Taylor Davis. Now,
I believe it's Diaz.
Diaz. I'm sorry. I've only said
negated his Hispanic.
I have only said Diaz because I just have to point this out. Brazzel said Diaz.
When?
Did you say Diaz? You've known him for decades.
I might have been drinking. Was it during working hours?
I
was probably drinking.
I'm still offended, but I just bury it in sauce.
So Diaz, Stephen Diaz. Sorry, Stephen. I apologize.
I don't care.
If you listen to the show, you'll find that I mispronounce people's names all the time.
You didn't forget my name, and she's like Jose.
Or Manuel.
Just something like
Manuel.
On with it.
That would have made me feel worse.
I would have felt great. Yes,
I love that you were just like, you know what? I guess I am Diaz now. We're just gonna roll with that and accept it.
You know what? I feel like when I make a mistake on somebody's name, that's ultimately what they just change it. I have the paperwork.
That's the American way. Hey, July 4th. That's the American way. Yeah, we don't like Diaz. Diaz.
There, that's it.
I can pronounce that. I like it.
Stephen, you were in the Marines in the early 2000s. You did sustain injury due to an IED in Iraq. That was in 2005, correct?
That's it.
Now that injury took you out of the Marines. Is that correct?
Yeah. So after I got hit, I spent the rest of my Marine Corps career recovering at the Naval Hospital in Bethesda, Maryland.
Right.
Now, Walter Reed, the Army, likes to just come in and just take over anything that's working.
Somewhere there is some senator who needs their name on something.
I can't believe that they would allow Army doctors over Navy doctors. Isn't the president's doctor a Navy physician?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think it's correct.
Yeah, you wouldn't let Army doctors over Navy.
But and you were. So, do you remember the scenario in which you got injured?
So I actually learned a lot more about it last year.
Yeah.
The guys.
Sorry.
The guys that.
Don't think I'm rude if I'm just maneuvering stuff.
I love guys just putting stuff in my face.
So we need to go back to talking about consent.
I heard
it's recorded. He loves it.
I heard the disclaimer on the front. I said, we're good. Yeah, we're good. What was the question? I remember. So, last year, we actually shot a documentary with the guys that I was injured with.
Okay.
And it had been 16 years since the date of the accident, and all of us together had never been together since that. Some of us had never even seen each other since then, so it was amazing to hear their side of the story, because I had actually never even heard their side of the story.
Sure.
So I learned a lot about what had happened that day, and I had been telling my story, I mean, for 15, 16 years, and it was not what happened. So, but I mean, essentially what happened, skipping a whole bunch of details, was I was in a lead vehicle for a convoy that on a mission that I wasn't supposed to be on, but I had volunteered to go on that mission, and ended up being in the front right passenger seat of a vehicle, which is usually a vehicle commander who takes that position. So the leadership for a vehicle is usually in the front right seat, and I was in that seat. And when an explosion happened, I was able to absorb most of the damage that came in, and so which ended up saving the rest of everybody in the back.
We're talking about shrapnel and glass and metal.
Mostly shrapnel, because at that time, so the vehicle that we were in, we were supposed to be in an ARP armored vehicle, which we didn't have many.
We also on flat bottom Humvees.
At that time they didn't have the V at the bottom to help
push the explosion
push the blast towards a different direction. The ARP armored Humvees we did have, we actually stole from an Army unit that was next to us.
Go Marines!
I mean, but if you go back and you read a bunch of history books, that's what you did. I mean, you went and you stole.
I think they call that acquiring.
What you needed.
Not doing it stealing.
We love a good reframe.
Tactically acquired some Humvees that an Army unit next to us had put to the side because the heaters in them were broken. But the Humvee itself works. So we're like, okay, if the only thing that's blocking us from getting some of these were barbed wired cables, we'll just cut that and take their stuff and bring it over.
Yeah.
And we just spray painted our logo on them.
Okay.
And they're ours now.
I put my name on it. It's mine.
I love this. This is awesome.
It's like, what are y'all gonna do about it?
Proper allocation.
It's just straight up
reallocation.
Just fucking
Took them. And we never got questioned, as we shouldn't have, because what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
So we had got hit, and I was so we had the vehicle commander of that convoy ended up switching Humvees. So they took our up armored, and we were in an unarmored Humvee that we had welded our own armor onto it. The doors were these L-shaped, 1-inch steel, if not less, doors.
Okay.
That would stop. It would slow down or stop small arms. So, 9mm, possibly AK rounds. But it was not meant to take a blast.
Right. Especially not right on top, I assume.
But the good thing about the vehicle was that it was fast, because at that time, all the up armor that they rushed to put on it, which is another interesting story of so many guys were getting injured by the roadside bombs that created these almost like Lego block type armor that you could just put onto the Humvees, but they did nothing to the engine. So the Humvees are already 2 tons, plus you're putting in all this other armament and ammunition and gear, plus all the stuff you're carrying. It's already gonna make it heavy. Now you're adding another extra 2 ton of armor on top of it, and that's not going to do much for the engine.
Right.
And so you would hit a certain speed and you'd either blow out the engine or other bad things would happen. And so, you could only go for between 40 and 50 miles an hour.
Goodness.
Without anything happening. And so the insurgents, these guys were smart. And we were talking off the air earlier about how the Syrians played a massive role. I would say the Iranians as well, just a massive role in the war in Iraq. And these guys, they knew what the hell they were doing. They're smart. You have to admire them for that. And they would know, they could judge a convoy how fast it's going, and if they planted IEDs somewhere, they would know how to, because a lot of times they would hit you from the front, they'd hit you in the middle, and they'd hit you in the back, and they would just create bottlenecks everywhere. And then if it was a really good ambush, then they would have guys on the sides ready to just pop up and just start tearing people apart.
Yeah.
Extremely smart and effective. And so for us, when anything like that would happen, if an IED would went on, I mean, you just keep going. If you get stuck on the side of the road, it sucks to be you.
Yeah.
I mean, you just keep going. And then with the security vehicles that were attached to the convoy, then they would come and figure out what to do. So that was what our role was in convoys, was the security element. And but for that particular mission, we were going from our base in Al Asad, which is in the Anbar province, an Air Force base there, and then we were going to one of the farthest bases in our AO, area of operation, called Korean Village. And so we were heading there to Korean Village, and then on top of that, our main military supply routes, or MSRs, were not clear. So then we had to take alternate routes that were not.
Those are the worst routes to take.
It's like, hey, by the way, these routes that you're taking, you can't go. You have to take the
ASRs, alternate, supply routes. Yeah.
And so, nobody had gone down these roads to check on, because that's what we do. So if you weren't sleeping, you were either on a mission or you were checking out the roads to look for IEDs, so that anyone else that comes down there, you'd be able to belong. And nobody had gone down there, so nothing about this mission was working out the way it normally was supposed to.
None of the necessary check boxes.
Right, but that's just how the military works. And then just war in general. I mean, war is hell. So,
fluid.
But so we're in this unarmored Humvee of sorts, and we came up on a situation where we knew something was suspicious. You know when something's off, because we're just trained to see, and everything needs to be the same every single time, especially when you're on patrols. And we look for things that are just a little bit off, because they know how to hide these explosives in animals, or if they're really good, they can put on the side of the road and make an explosive look like a bomb, or a rock rather, and you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And so you drive by it, and then it's just like, and then you get blown up, and then you go back and look, they hit it on a trash or something.
Yeah.
So I mean, everything potentially that was off was an explosive. But when we were able to, when I switched seats with, apparently I was on the gun most of the time, and then we switched seats, then I was in the front right passenger seat, and being where I was, and then the gun that we had on top, which was a grenade launcher, an automatic grenade launcher, what's called a Mark 19, which is not usually what you would have in a lead vehicle. Because, okay, what do you So none of it made sense at all, but we're just like, whatever, you just have to go.
Yeah.
And so next to me to my left was the radio, and then we had all the ammunition for the grenades, so all that was right to my left. And where we would have gotten hit, the shrapnel and the blast would have come straight right across. And so the way that I had positioned my body was covering a lot of that stuff. So just in case anything were to come blow up, at least it would protect that stuff. So then we would still have the radio if we needed it, and then it wouldn't blow up the grenade.
Right.
I didn't know about any of this until these guys we started talking, and I was like, wait, what happened? Yeah.
It's wild, like the pieces that we like hold, and then the things that like just don't follow with us.
But
right?
a lot of it made sense, because I do remember hearing the blast, and I remember what my body did. After that, I woke up in Bethesda.
Yeah.
What felt almost like 2 weeks later. Ended it right at about a week. But I remember my body just kind of flying back, and which made sense, because I also thought that was weird if I was sitting down straight, and if it would my body wouldn't have shifted, or because you had the backing for the chair, but my body just kind of flew back. And I'm acting it out on the, you can't see it, I keep just acting it out, like I forget what I'm talking.
Arms are flailing.
And but anyway, so then I went to in 2 days I made it to Bethesda, Maryland, from Iraq, and then I was put in a coma, and I woke up and I thought I was a POW.
Wow.
Because my hands were tied down. I was trying to pull because we're crazy, so I was trying to pull the tubes out. And so they tied my hands down, and then I was in a makeshift ICU room, because there was just so many of us out there.
Yeah.
And so all I had was just curtains, and I wake up, and so I thought I was a POW, and I was like, I'm not trained for this. I didn't go through SEERs, or but then I also don't know anything, so I don't have anything to tell them. So I guess I'm good.
Little silver lining there.
I don't know. Really, I don't know. I don't know. I know we had the B box for the MREs. That's all I can tell you. It was a good box.
That's right.
Other than that, I don't know what to tell you.
B-box at the chili mat, right?
That's it. That's the good stuff. Other than that, I'm screwed. I don't know what to tell you guys. But so then I remember my parents walking in, and I just started crying. But it was not a, hey, I'm so thankful that y'all are here. I'm safe. It was, okay, I'm definitely not in Iraq anymore. I'm back stateside, or who knows where I'm at, and I don't know where my guys are at. I don't know where any of my stuff is at, my rifle, my gear. And but I knew that I was safe of some kind, but my guys weren't. And so that just scared the hell out of me. Sure. It's like, am I the only one that survived? It's a survivor's guilt just instantly just kicked in, and I was pissed that I'm the only one that made it, which you would think that you're happy because you're alive. But it's just so cool how the military, our camaraderie and how much we love each other. You can survive and get hurt and you're still pissed off.
Yeah. Well, I think that's ingrained in us too. I mean, like the type of people who serve. I think it's just a volunteer army, volunteer force. The type of people who serve. That's the mindset, almost going into it. You know, I don't even know if that's ingrained by the military, or if that's what we bring to the table. Really, and that's why I think the American military is the best military. It's just the men and women who fight in it. Yeah. Are so willing to put their life on the line for their fellow American.
And you, Andrew, you're still in the National Guard.
Yeah.
You, I think you have your 2-week duty time coming up soon.
Yeah,
right?
I've got 18 and a half years in. Yeah. So year and a half left. Yeah, I mean that's
That's going to be it though.
I don't know. Tricare is pretty awesome.
Yeah, we've discussed that.
Yeah. I mean it's. I mean you're talking about a very affordable health coverage.
Yeah.
For inconvenience, but my kids are getting older and I don't want to miss stuff. Sure. So it's like I'm getting old. From the military standpoint, I know I'm 36. I know we joke, or 35. I know we joke like, oh, you're not old. But from a military standpoint, like I am the old man. Like I'm
ancient, absolutely.
I'm ancient in the military, right? Yeah. So it's.
You get the softer cot. You get the.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I bring my own cot. I bought mine from Walmart because I'm so tired of having to fight it. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, the new ones you spread out, you put your foot on it and it just snaps it in place. You're like, this is amazing. Why
I haven't seen that new one yet. So like we used to go in the Guard, we get all like. I always joke that the Guard is very similar to the Marine Corps. Like we get a lot of like the leftover shit, or we don't have it.
Okay.
Like we have shit still from like Vietnam era. And it doesn't work, and so we have to figure out a way around it. Yeah. Which I think makes us a very unique in that manner, in that we can go into an area and operate. Like this past deployment, we had guys in Green Village, with Special Operation Forces, and Special Operation Forces gave them a lot of kudos because they were not expecting that from the Guard unit. Yeah. And they were just holding their own, because they had that ability to work on the fly, to make things just work, so been in the Guard for 18 and a half years, and I struggle with staying in. Sure. Sure. I don't know, we'll see.
Well, Taylor, you're a mental health researcher with the University of South Carolina.
Yes.
And how much of what you work with, the individuals you work with, are military?
Especially in the state of South Carolina, I mean, there's an incredible population of military-connected youth, military families, individuals who are veterans or those that are still serving. One thing that I know our lab or our team is very mindful of is including that community. So we have veterans that we have a gentleman out of MUSC that informs us on how can we be positively integrating research and resources, most importantly resources, outreach and awareness and education for military populations. As a clinician, regardless of the setting that I've been in, whether I've served in diversion programs and school programs or in the community, you're always going to be connected to serving an individual, to providing service to an individual at some capacity that has some degree of connectedness to the military. It's something I'm very mindful of, and is super, super close to my heart. As I said earlier, I have so many friends that are serving or have served, and I've met so many incredible advocates in the field, like the two that are sitting here today, that are giving voice to needs and informing the work that we do. If you don't have an individual who's served in the military with a seat at your table, then you are doing a disservice to the work, because it's far too large of a population. For us as civilians, it's really critical that we pay very close attention and are super mindful of what of your lived experience. And for me as a clinician, I find the most powerful change and ways to educate myself on how to better serve in my role is by genuinely listening, right? That's what we're trained to do. But when I get to hear my friends speak on their lived experience, there's something that's, it's a privilege, right? It's something quite intimate to be let into that world and to hear the passion behind it. I was saying that it helps to inform my lines of question, where I might want to stay. If there's things that aren't being said in the room, it helps me to think about what can I bring out, because I've learned from the people that I'm privileged to be surrounded by that have served, about what directions I can lead so that I can help to facilitate that growth and development and that forward movement. So I dig when I get to hear the way that you intelligently intelligently frame everything as well. I just think that's so powerful too.
I think and Stephen would probably agree with this though too, is that I think one of the biggest problems in the veteran community is just this inability to share.
Yeah.
Not wanting to share.
Yeah, so we just choose not to.
Well, and I think there's a fear, though, right? It's the reliving. There's a part of it.
I think, too, is that there's this idea that, if you weren't there, it's hard to share the story.
Sure.
Right? And that's what I always tell people. It's the stories may be different, but the feelings that you have felt are the same. Mm-hmm. And that's how I try to connect with people from that perspective, is that, I know we're not the same unit. Your time overseas was probably different than mine. Your story is probably completely different than mine, and that's fine. And maybe the traumatic experiences that you faced are completely different than mine. But the feelings you felt and the feelings I felt during that set of traumatic experience were probably the same. So that's where we connect on.
Yeah.
But it's trying to get people to understand that. Because it is hard to talk. It's hard to talk to people who don't have the same story.
Yeah.
It's even harder to talk to people who have the story. I hardly ever talk to people from my unit except for maybe Hudson, Casey Hudson, who's one of my best friends. But outside of that, we've had reunions because we lost 2 guys in our platoon, and so we've had reunions. I still haven't gone to them. I still haven't gone to their graves.
Right.
And I've been meaning to. I want to. But I can't find the courage to do so.
Can I offer that it's, in my mind, it's not as much about courage, it's about readiness. There's a you are courageous. You're courageous to have gone through everything that you've been through, but allowing yourself the grace to say I have good intention here. I want to be there, but it may not behoove me or benefit me to move forward in that way. That's okay, right? And we also have to give that grace as a society, whether you're civilian or otherwise, to say when folks are ready for that forward movement to engage in those things that may or may not be quote unquote healing mechanisms. Yeah. You are there when they're ready, but we're not here to push you in any degree, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't know. We can empathize, but we don't know. And the reality is, even what you're sharing, I imagine it's far more layered than that, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's just such an onion. I don't know who does onion like this. I don't know if I was zucchini rolling an onion. I feel it's more of a. I was thinking peeling an onion.
Hell's Kitchen.
It's a this, right? There's a lot of elbow. There's a lot of elbow. Yeah, a lot of elbow.
I think it's a hand.
Well, we're gonna peel our onion, so it's a lot of onions, a big onion to peel back, right? And
for those listening at home, it was more like she was peeling an apple.
We're opening a can.
Yeah, I was doing so I cook a lot. I love to be in the kitchen.
Have you ever seen Ratatouille?
Yeah.
Where the rat grabs the hair, and he tries to get the guy.
Don't
so
tell people
bad.
my secrets. I've actually been training rats in my living room for an extended period of time so that I can cook, you know? So next time you and Mary come over, just know I'm in
seen
cahoots.
Ratatouille 5 times, and every time I see it, I swear to God, he's going to cut his finger off. I'm like, he's going to cut his finger off. He's going to cut his finger. This time he's going to cut his finger off. But
Who is this?
Ratatouille. When he's doing the onion, I'm like, I've seen it 5 times, and I know he's not going to do it. But I'm like, every time I'm watching, I'm like, oh my God, he's going to cut his finger off. He's going to cut his finger off. I know he is.
Yeah, it being recorded and not changing.
Yeah.
That does have some bearing. It does have some
the
bearing.
Snyder cut, though, of Ratatouille, I've heard, does cut his finger off. The Snyder cut of Ratatouille.
Have you seen this video, the tea?
No.
You got to. So it was a big. You might have. You were out, but like when the military was doing this big sharp movement, like for sexual harassment, like that was a part of the class. Was the tea?
It's a great teaching tool, though. I mean, it just really like drills down on what does it mean to like engage with someone in a safe way, and even though it is like a little bit satirical, it's still very pragmatic, right? It's very much about like how bananas it would be to offer tea to someone and they say no, and then you just pour it in their face. Like that doesn't make sense. It's the same thing. Someone says no, you don't keep giving them the tea. Someone's asleep, you don't give them the tea. Someone's passed out. Someone said earlier, yes, I want tea, and then later they're like, no, I don't. You're not like, well, earlier you said tea, so you better drink this tea, And it's a good teaching tool. And I think it is also like non-shaming. So like it says like, it's okay to not know some of these nuances, but now you have a way to like be familiar around it. Like I love anything that makes stuff like actually palatable, so that we can all connect with it.
Simplify it.
It's a great way, like it's a great mechanism that we use in mental health when we're doing outreach and awareness to be able to teach communities and engage them. Like you don't want to come in with a bunch of acronyms and jargon and like all of this hoopla, because that doesn't connect. But if you can make it real, whether it's sharing stories of lived experience, right, or you can frame things in such a way where folks can really connect to it in like a simple way, then you're doing so much better than if you come in and like put your glasses on and put your nose up in the air and like don't offer content in a way that folks are going to adapt to it. I mean, I find it super helpful, but the stories, I think, are the most powerful change makers.
We have to thank our sponsor, GOT Sound Studio, and its owner and operator, Dominique Stewart, better known as Neek the Geek. GOT Sound Studios offers a variety of recording experiences from music, voice, and instrumental recordings and production, as well as podcasts. GOT Sound Studio is located in Columbia, South Carolina, and operated by the most talented producer and engineer in the business. GOT Sound Studio is a Black-owned business. Bring your recording business needs here. You can find details on their Facebook page or by calling 803-243-2302 or emailing gotsounds@theallaboutnothing.com. That's gotsounds@theallaboutnothing.com. You can find links in the Friends of the Pod section of our website. Visit theallaboutnothing.com. All right, Nothingers, I want to cue you in about a friend of the pod, Blank Canvas Brand. If you own a business or restaurant and the time has come to build that unique brand, you have got to get a hold of Blank Canvas Brand. Blank Canvas Brand specializes in brand identity, including logos, business cards, flyers, and anything else to promote your business. And now, Blank Canvas Brand offers printing services to help with your clothing needs, including sports teams. I can tell you from our own experience, Blank Canvas Brand is responsible for our logo, as well as the Bowl of Duty bowling team logo, and we couldn't be happier with what's been produced. For more information, you can search Facebook for Blank Canvas, or you can email Blank Canvas at theallaboutnothing.com. That's BLNKCANVS at theallaboutnothing.com. You can find links in the Friends of the Pod section of our website. Visit theallaboutnothing.com.
Live from EXO Auto Works. Streaming all over the world.
We're coming for you, globalists!
It's your weekly dose of toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity. With Eric Madrid.
Because if too many people are just running around with their dicks out, it's called the Harambe variant.
And Trevor Lane.
No. A of Karens.
It's Man Tools.
Live Thursday night 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, on Facebook at Man Tools Media, or on YouTube at Man Tools Podcast.
Hey everyone, I want to take a quick moment to mention one of our new sponsors, thepaintedmoment.com. That's thepaintedmoment.com. Check this out. Have you ever taken a photo with your phone or digital camera that would look amazing as a watercolor canvas painting? Well, now there's a website ready to take your photo and turn it into digital painted moments. This is how it works. Visit thepaintedmoment.com, follow the instructions, and your digital photo will be enhanced and returned to you with links on where you can have an image printed to canvas or whatever else you'd like to do with it. We've already got a couple of these enhanced photos hanging around the house, and trust me, you'll love what comes out. Thepaintedmoment.com. Create a painted moment in time from your digital photos. Thepaintedmoment.com. Seriously, check them out today. Thepaintedmoment.com.
Hello out there in podcast world. I am the dad who dabs. My name is the Diligent Dabber. I am a cannabis enthusiast, patient, product reviewer, and I also make educational videos on YouTube. I have always promoted individual empowerment when it comes to people's experiences with cannabis. My show is a mixture of cannabis news, dad life, industry insider knowledge, and of course, dabs. Join me as I traverse the intricacies of life, the universe, and everything on The Dad Who Dabs. Find it on Spotify with a bonus video version available on YouTube. I am the Diligent Dabber from The Dad Who Dabs.
Hey, it's John Kostis, Broadcast and Media Relations Manager for the Columbia Firefly.
This is Judd Larkins, and I am the Democratic nominee for the 2nd Congressional District.
It's your boy, Michael Producer.
This is Taylor King from Your Mama's New Boyfriend Band.
What's up, y'all know Coast?
Yo, it's your boy Jefferson Cash coming live to you from Los Angeles, California.
This is Neat the Geek.
This is Lorian from Richmond, California.
This is Justin Osborne from Susto.
And you're listening to All About Nothing Podcast.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
Let's get it.
I couldn't remember what happened that day because I had just kind of not blocked it out, but it was like the first day of like what ended up being like a 21 day mission where we had gone out to Wallywas, or we were going out to supply Tillman or whatever, this FOB out in East Afghanistan near the Pakistan border.
FOB, Forward Operating Base?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were going there to supply FOB Tillman, which is very remote. They got one supply a year. Most of their supply came from like blivets or from choppers. But it just reminded me because like I had, so like I was saying, so it was part of this what ended up being this long mission. Like day one, and mind you, like we're within like our first 100 days. Like we're within that time frame. And so the most dangerous time overseas is your first 100 days and your last 100 days.
Okay.
Your first 100 days you don't know shit, and your last 100 days you don't give a shit.
You think you're done?
You think you're done, right? It's that mindset, right? So, and we got tasked to do the Tillman run, and from the previous unit, from our left seat, right seat, and this was 2010.
Is this any relation to the Arizona quarterback? Cardinal Tillman.
I wondered that. Yeah. I wonder if that's where the farm was named after, was for him. But I don't know the relationship of where he was killed.
Yeah.
And FOB Tillman. Like I'm not sure of that.
Gotcha.
Because even when I read up on Tillman, it doesn't say. I don't think it was. I think the province is different because we were in Paktika. I don't think he was in Paktika. If he was, then maybe so.
Yeah.
Because it was near the border. I mean, we were like a stone throw away from the border. I mean, it's right there. Yeah. Well, a lot of the FOBs are named after individuals who had been killed overseas.
Yeah.
And so, like day one of this mission, we're kind of new. We're ready to go. We've been in country for probably less than 100 days, but we had a couple months underneath us, so we were kind of fit to fight at that point, especially in Afghanistan because there's mountains.
Yeah.
And anyone who's been in Afghanistan, the mountains knows, and who has humped through the mountains knows that. Man, that first month is hard.
Yeah.
It's tough because, like, one, you're like at 10,000 feet elevation, and I remember like the unit we were replacing, they took us on these like bunny hills.
You said money hills?
Like bunny hills.
Oh, bunny hills.
Like skiing, right?
Okay,
So they're like practice hills. We weren't in like any like TAIs or anything like that. It was literally outside of FOB Sharano.
Okay.
We weren't far. We were still on hardball. And where we were at was all I don't even call it softball, I don't even call it unapproved, or waddy. So we were still on the hardball. We were just outside the FOBs. It wasn't far. And what they really wanted to do was just kind of go over some of their dismount procedures and things like that. And we were ready, we thought physically. And I remember that when we got out of the truck and we climbed that first bunny hill, I was so gassed. Like I was out of breath. Like I could not get my breath because we were 10,000 feet above elevation.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, couldn't get my breath.
It's taller than the Appalachians here.
Yeah. So fast forward, we're about 90 days in. So we're acclimated. We're fit to fight. We're humping the whole way. We got our dismount team out because we do rock clearance. I guess I should have prefaced that. We're doing rock clearance. And the area we were in was a command wire area. So the only way to combat command wire was to have a dismounted element. So anyway, day one, it's nighttime. So we're not doing dismounts at night. Just because of the terrain and the situation, and we had some overwatch. So we just saw there was not a need for dismount. So day one, get past the probably one of the most dangerous cities in our AO in the Pecoti Valley. Like these guys still were flying, they still had kite runners. Like in 2010, they still had the kite runner.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. They still flew the black kite whenever we would come by.
For communication.
So wild.
And so we get through the Pecoti, the town of Pecoti, and so we thought we were in the clear, good to go. And that's so we get through this mountain pass, or we're going through this mountain pass, and I remember I got up the hill. There's so much leading up to the story. I'm trying to make it quick. Sorry, there's a lot of details.
I love the detail though. Yeah. Like it framed. Like I don't know. Like it makes my brain happy.
So we had a truck that had some turbo issues, which was a common thing in the RGs. So from the Humvee came the RG, which is an up-armored vehicle that had the V-shape. I'll get back to the Humvee because we had Humvees doing route clearance in 2005, which was crazy. Looking for IEDs, and we would travel. You're talking about speed, so we would travel 15 to 20 miles an hour. So speed wasn't a thing. It was like, we're going to slow as far back. We're going to slow as dirt. So we had a turbo issue with one of the trucks. The wrecker hooks up to it and begins pulling it up the hill. And I remember myself, I was the lead gun truck, or the lead RG with the mine roller, and I had the two Huskies in front of me, which is our way of detecting IEDs in the ground. Okay. Because by 2010 we advanced our ability to do so. And I just remember I got around the pass, I get out, and Hudson, who's the second gun truck behind me, he said, hey, you want to smoke a cigarette real quick? Because we knew the wrecker was having trouble getting the other truck up. It would take a while. So yeah. So we get out, smoking a cigarette, kind of talking shit, and all of a sudden we just hear it. Boom. And it's infamous. You know that sound. Oh yeah. Like you know it. And I've heard it a lot doing route clearance. But in that instance, I knew it hit something. I knew something was intentional.
Had a different sound than just the thump.
It just had a different feeling. Yeah. Like it wasn't even. It was like spider senses almost. It was like I was just tingling. And Hudson looked at me, and we both jumped back in the truck as fast as possible. We got on the comms, and the wrecker had been hit. I didn't know how bad it was going to be though, because we were behind, and we somehow make our way back. And the wrecker was blown. It was actually the explosion was so much explosive. They estimated it to be about 300 to 500 pounds. They couldn't tell, but that's what they were estimating, 300 to 500 pounds. And their target was soft targets, so they looked for wreckers, which were flat bottom holes. Or anything with a flat bottom hole, because they knew that the V-shape would disperse it, so that was their primary target, soft. And it had blown the wrecker up onto the mountain.
Goodness.
So, back to my point though, there was a lot about that night that I just could not remember. Sure. And with the help of therapy, but really once I started therapy and I started talking to Hudson, one of my good friends, and I'm sure he doesn't mind if I say this, who's also in therapy, I realized that when I was going through my therapy, I realized that I actually didn't know what happened. That the account I had in my head was what I had kind of perceived or told myself over the 10 years, and just assumed it as fact. And after talking to Hudson, I realized how much of that was not true. Yeah. Because I guess I had just kind of blocked it and kind of filled in.
It's that survival
just make up
mode,
our own
right?
story.
Like our brains are.
So I like we were talking about
just make up for years. I just made up my own story.
Yeah. Like you don't even eat even with that kind of event. You're not even being the one that's it. I just kind of made it up.
Sure, or we bury it and just don't talk about it.
I compartmentalized it for years.
You go into like natural survival mode though. Like, I mean, it's an autonomic response. It's not something that's intentional. Like, I mean, especially like I want folks to it's like not trying to discredit someone's story. Like that is perception is reality, and that's what you're able to hold on to until you do the work like you guys have so diligently done, or you get around other people that can fill in those gaps because it's trauma. You know, I mean, like. You can't possibly hold on to all those things that are going on in the moment.
One of the big problems too, especially when you got a high op tempo, is that like Steven said, there is no time.
Right.
Like so that was day one of a 20-day mission. Like there was no time to grieve because we were moving. Like so once we got to Tillman, we came out of Tillman because Tillman's not our home base. Yeah. But Tillman had a mission that they wanted us to help with. Right, and so and it took us 20 days for that mission to be fully complete. So when we got back, that's when we had our ceremony for the fallen. But like at that point in time, I had buried it. So even when we were doing their ceremony, I still wasn't able to release it because like the next day we were running our main MSR, which was Jeep. We were running that to make sure it was clear because we had a clip coming in. So it was like you had to keep going. There was no
the time
rest for
it
the
takes
wicked.
to release grief too. Like even if you had days to just like sit with it, that's still not enough. Like I mean, grief is not losing. Like I guess like honoring the fallen doesn't happen in just a singular moment, right? Like that's.
I feel like living my life is, in a way, honoring the fallen.
1,000%.
Like I live the best life I can because they can.
Yeah.
You know, and that's I totally agree with that.
Well, even being a civilian and never having been in any sort of military situation like that either of you have gone through, I have trauma from when I was younger. My brother had a brain tumor, and from the time that he was diagnosed with that brain tumor till about my 10th or 11th birthday, I have no memory of anything. I've described situations where we spent most of any time after school or summers or whatnot were in the hospital because he had surgery after surgery after surgery. So I mean, legitimately, it's a real thing, and we haven't even broken through in my therapy, but it's one of those things that there's still a block, and so I don't remember that section of time. There's nothing to specifically say that I'll ever get through it and remember those times, because I have friends that'll talk about how they can remember when they were babies or they were 2 years old or something like that. I was like, not a thing. Could not tell you anything.
But see, that's how civilians in the military connect.
Yeah.
Is that like even though our stories are different, vastly different, but the feelings we felt are the same.
Yeah.
And so that's how you connect. That's how we all make that connection.
Well, that's
again.
empathy, right? Like it's being able to say like I don't have to walk a mile in your shoes to be able to like try and meet you where you're at. I'm curious, like given that all of us have shared experience around trauma to varying degrees, engaging in therapy before you kind of stepped into like finding a clinician, was there information that was available to you, or did you even know to look for like individuals that practice like trauma-focused psychotherapy or EMDR or or progressive, exposure?
Yeah. So I'd say after like the 05 deployment, there wasn't that, but by 2010 there had been a big push for that.
Yeah, South Carolina is doing some good work. There's some partnerships. Are y'all familiar with Hope Lives in SC?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a phenomenal partnership with the VA, Dais, and Department of Mental Health. And then there's another group that's working with Emory to connect, so treatment, no cost for post 9/11 veterans who've experienced traumatic brain injury, living with PTSD, anxiety, depression. I think there's one other with brilliant individuals that are connected with Emory, and so they've got neurosurgeons and psychiatrists and counselors. So I mean, I think it is hopeful, but I do think that the fact that all of us can sit at this table and say whether you're a civilian or you're an individual who has military experience, to not know these things that can help to push you forward is concerning.
So I will say this. So, and I don't know if it's in defense of, but I will say that I think that one of the problems is that I'm 35. I didn't get help till I was 34.
Right.
Wow.
So, like, when I came home from Iraq in 2005, I was 19, and I went to a VA. And because I felt like I had to.
Yeah.
Because they kind of tell you that when you're in process and guiding the stage, like, go to the VA, this, that, and the other. And so I go to the VA, and I'm sitting there, and they're in the room. I've got like amputees, double amputees. I've got like people who are like seriously, like physically scarred from this. And I got up and walked out.
Really?
I was like, I cannot be in here. I do not deserve to be in here with these people. These people need this. I don't need this. I'm fine. I can go. Carry on.
It's minimized. It's a hidden wounds, right? Like that's that narrative around it is that we say like your pain is greater, so my pain isn't enough to receive the support. Acknowledging though that like our mental health crisis that can result from that pain leads to death, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, we lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, so we have to shift that. But I recognize and respect how that's kind of how you all I think are built, right?
Well, I think that's the mechanism in us, and I don't think it's ingrained in us. I think that's just us, military. We want. Like we're like that's why we joined, right?
You're helpers,
so, And so like I'm not gonna like put the blame on anybody because I feel like that's who I am.
Yeah.
It's not because the military didn't do enough, because they do enough. Everyone does enough. It's whether or not at the time I'm willing to receive it.
Yeah.
And whether or not I think I'm good to go, and Charlie might continue mission.
Yeah.
On to the next thing.
Yeah. Well, from your experience, mental health, as far as like what you went through, is your experience similar in that you felt like this wasn't something that you deserved, or that maybe this was something that you could shoulder, where others had more permanent wounds that you could see?
I think mine is unique so I was injured. I should have died. But I made it. I mean, my parents, they were getting ready to book them flights to go to Germany because I wasn't supposed to make it. But with the advances that we've made in medicine and transportation and all that, a lot of us have made it that probably shouldn't have made it. And so my experience in the hospital with, kind of like you just said, guys with missing limbs and parts of their faces just missing, or guys that you see with just terrible burns. But I saw this day in and day out. Like it was my present, and I became numb to it because I just saw. I mean, somebody came and had a missing arm. Cool. Well, that dude's got 2 missing arms, or that dude's got he's a quadruple. I got 4 friends who are quadruple amputees, and so. But it was never I'm more injured than you. It was just this is my surrounding, and so you just become numb to it. So it's just kind of like whatever. But I got to see it every single day where guys who weren't injured come home and they don't have time to decompress, kind of like you were talking about. It's we're back now. It's time to keep moving, and you go on to the next mission. Where I didn't have that. I mean, I got to relax in the. I was healing through surgeries and stuff, but I'm not in danger anymore. I'm with these other guys who also served. I didn't know them; they were strangers to me, but they were injured Marines, and I did that for 1 year and 8 months, and we're constantly talking about our injuries, talking about the stories that we thought we knew, and so I didn't know it, but during that whole time, I was really going through counseling because we're talking about it.
Yeah.
But then the guys like Angie, they come home, they're not talking about it. So I come home and I get guys who are asking me, Diaz, you went through all this stuff, but you seem like you're having a great life. What are you doing? I didn't know any different because I didn't feel like I did anything special. I just kept going on with life. But my situation, my placement was a whole lot different. Than these guys coming back, and I kind of put that back to like in World War II, where the guys who are fighting in the European and the Pacific campaigns, and they're there together for such a long time, and then they come back home, but they're coming home on ships, and so they're getting to talk to each other and decompress. Where now you go overseas and then you're back in less than 24 hours, and you're expected to flip that switch. I didn't go through that. And so I'm sitting here like, what are these guys talking about? They're sitting here suffering. Yeah, I was going through my own issues, but not as difficult as them. But I suffered more physically, and they're suffering more mentally. And I'm telling, and I'm just telling them, like, I didn't know how to help them, nor did I want to help them, because when we come back, it's every man for himself. I got my own issues. I'm not trying to worry about yours.
Right.
I was telling guys, go to the VA, go to the vet center. I don't know how to. I didn't tell them I didn't know how to help you, but go to these places. And so they would either they had already been or have felt like that because exhausted all of their resources. So now they're coming to me because they're figuring, Diaz looks like he's doing okay, but he got way hurt than me. What's he doing different? And I had 6 friends who killed themselves, and I felt guilty for the longest because it was like these people came and asked me for help. And if we were back on the battlefield, like, we would sacrifice ourselves just to go pick up their dead body or their dead body parts just to bring them back home. But we come back home and it's like, screw you.
Wow.
And so for the longest, I felt real guilty because I felt like them not being here anymore, that I played a role in that. And then I started realizing, cut myself some slack, gave myself grace, was that I wasn't prepared to help them. I didn't know, I didn't have the tools, I didn't have the training or the mindset to help them. But how can I change that? So that's what led us into creating a few nonprofits, the most successful one being Hidden Wounds, and just taking a multifaceted approach into educating the community of what it is that we're going through. Educating veterans, hey, this is what you're going through. You might not understand it, you might not know, but you're experiencing this. Connecting with providers who are experts in their field, but they might not know how to connect with the military population. Mm-hmm. So connecting with them, teaching them, here's how we talk, here's how we're going through things. Use those skills to translate it, transfer them to be able to better help us. And then connecting the military with these providers, because they don't know. We're so used to everything in the military being given to us, being provided, and then we get out and we're just sitting around waiting for someone to knock on the door and saying, hey, you need to do this. And that's not going to come. So we use that as an excuse. Because I'm not big on the victim mentality, but we have to be equipped with the tools to then know, okay, this is what's going on. Here's what I can do to try to see what helps me, because it's also not a cookie cutter system. What works for Andrew might not work for me, and vice versa. And so, I mean, we spent years just traveling the state, but also traveling the country to find out what are all sorts of different types of ways to heal. Let me present these options to you, and I will hold your hand to an extent, but at some point, you need to figure out how to. Because I'm not gonna, and I tell guys, I am not going to waste my time on you if you don't want to get better. Because there's someone else that wants to get better.
But I think too, that's also trusting in their own resilience, which is healing, right? It's saying like, I know you can do this. I know you're a badass. I know that you've been through the literal mud, the muck, and the mire. I have faith in you for this. So it's counterproductive to like hold someone's hand. You give folks the tools, you give them the education, and you validate the badassery that is intrinsic in any individual who is either navigating growth and recovery, has served, experienced trauma, is still here with us today, and it helps us to identify. I mean, that's a huge piece.
You have to want to, because like I said, I was 35 when I finally realized I was ready. So it took me a long time to realize that.
That essentially you're looking at what, 16 years in the military.
16, 17 years. I guess maybe because I was alone, I was single, not alone, but single for the majority of that time. So when I came home from this past deployment, even though it wasn't There was no up tempo. There was nothing crazy that happened. But what happened, but for me, like something what Steven said was like that switch.
Yeah.
Right. So I turned that switch on prior to me leaving. Right. So like I'm dead inside. Dead inside is probably not the right word, but like I'm focused.
Yeah.
So I do lose my empathy. I'm driven. You know, at that time I was a platoon sergeant, so my goal was to make sure that my platoon was fit to fight, ready to go.
I want to just say,
that was good.
Bum, come over here real quick.
Can we do a shout out to Bum?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I just want to say again, we are recording live from Transmission Arcade on Main Street in Columbia. And Bum, will you tell us what it is that you've brought over to us?
You gotta get very close to your face. It's intimate.
I'm sorry.
It's different than when we recorded, where I just put a microphone in front of him.
It's so different. No, thanks. I'm glad you wanted to do it here. I'm glad we could host you.
Yeah,
it's not super busy today, which is good.
Yeah. For us not holding on this table.
Yeah, I'm not super tired. No, I just wanted to mess with y'all. It's a peanut butter and jelly cinnamon roll.
That looks amazing.
It's really good. We always use different cinnamon rolls. Last 2 weeks was this like peach caramel.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Is that still available?
I'll bring you some caramel just because you need to eat it. It happened on accident.
Like you made it?
Yeah. We make almost everything here.
Yeah, no, the food.
I did not make your tortilla shells.
That's okay.
The food.
That's okay. So you
I make a lot of bread, but not that.
If you haven't been to Transmission, I absolutely think that Sunday is the day to come. Well, Sunday and Monday. Because
Monday smoked cheesesteaks.
Yeah, the cheesesteaks.
Oh, wow.
But the menu here is quadrupled on Sunday. Like because the brunch menu is
amazing.
I had the chicken burritos today, and that was
the breakfast tacos were on point.
Yeah, thanks. We make chorizo here.
The chorizo was delicious.
Sausage made here. Bacon's made here. I mean everything.
So,
a lot of meat.
Do you got anything you want to promote? Any? I saw League Night on the Killer Queen popping up. What is that?
So Monday's free Killer Queen. If you haven't played Killer Queen, it's like a 5-on-5.
I'm glad you brought up
game.
Killer Queen because I beat Andrew mercilessly
He's been dying
Killer
to
Queen.
I did win one time.
That was the segue I needed.
Did I not win? I won one time out of 4, right? So
best
Monday's free Killer Queen. It's a blast. There's only 100 in the world.
That's amazing. There are.
We had to like bust out a wall.
Yeah,
to get it in here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's the back door. You'll see. That's why we have this exposed brick. Not only is it artisanal,
It's functional.
But yeah, I absolutely.
Mondays are fun. I'm trying to think of anything else. We do a concert series on Sundays. It's usually the first Sunday of every month, but it doesn't start till 10 p.m. But it is free. So that's a lot of fun. We're gonna start cooking out front because we usually have to close the kitchen early to move Killer Queen over here.
Oh, okay.
And the bands play in the arcade. It looks cool. And we project stuff on that screen, like
what
weird,
what
trippy
effort
stuff.
is made to move that video game? Because
That's so much easier.
Hey, really? Okay.
It's so easy.
probably
It's
on
on wheels. Yeah, it's
Got
great.
a wall every single time.
There's 7
It's really
skateboards.
taking a
The 7 skateboard. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Y'all keep talking.
They put on like cardboard to like
I'm gonna try
scoot
this.
it.
I'll hold for you.
Diaz is gonna cut into it right now.
We're gonna take a little break. We're gonna close for like the 3rd until that next Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the week of
I
July
don't know if
4th.
that's a promotional thing. I'm just.
Information.
Any of the regulars out there?
This episode drops on 4th of July, so just so you know, you cannot show up on the 4th of July.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a happy face right there. So wow.
Well, you're trying to. You got to take in all the flavors.
You taking all the flavors?
Yeah.
There's a lot of peanut butter.
These are
It's like drinking bourbon. You gotta. Did you smell it? Get the smell.
That's
These
amazing.
are two guys.
I love that I'm helping. Just like
Yeah.
I'm gonna got this for you.
And between Brazzel and Diaz, these are two guys that I did hear just a few minutes ago say that there were some MREs that they actually liked.
You're going full fingers on this guy. Didn't even, no fork. No, wow. That was graceful.
Wow.
I like that. We got a little shrimp.
Yeah,
That's so good.
it's like mixed berry jam.
Oh my god.
And we make all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Come eat, y'all.
Yeah.
Please. Okay.
Please, transmission arcade, 1712 Main Street, Columbia. This is easily become one of my favorite places.
Closed on Tuesdays.
Yeah, that's right. Wednesday. Yeah, that's it. In my notes, I actually put Wednesday to Sunday.
Yeah, no, Wednesday to Monday.
Wednesday to Monday. That's right.
I guess it's just easier to say closed on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It is kid friendly until 7.
So,
as I like to call it, it's a family bar.
Yeah,
until 7.
It's hard. It's hard to get my kids in past the guy checking IDs on Thursday nights.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm not gonna kick a family out at like 7. If they're here like 6:50, I'm not gonna be like,
sure,
get out at 7.
I'm here to play skee ball.
No,
come on.
This is absolutely one of the gems of Columbia. Is Transmission Arcade. I love it here. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
See you later.
Thank you.
You're gonna have to try that.
It's good.
I will try that.
But it's
Apparently,
so
just put
delicious.
your finger square in the middle of it and just add it straight.
I don't even remember what I was talking about. That's how good it was. Like I literally like. It is so euphoric. Yeah, that's how good it is. It's like it just makes you happy.
It looks really.
So we know that good nutrition, good food is very good for your mental health. That is evidence-based, not blowing smoke.
Well, before we get done, because I do want to hit on both of the foundations that you're a part of.
So Hidden Wounds was born out of a Midlands Marine who had taken his life.
Okay.
Who had gone to the VA system, fell through the cracks. I say that because I learned this the hard way. I don't bash the VA.
Sure.
You have to put yourself in their shoes of these people that want to help. They are restricted to evidence-based treatment, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't work for you.
Sure.
You also have to understand how many people are coming through, and that system's not perfect, right? So that's something else that we wanted to do, was to be able to, how can we partner with the VAs, being a community organization, to say these are the individuals that want to help, that can help, who are there to help. And then how do we get the veteran population to want to go in to get this help? And if the VA cannot help them, what can we do as a community, instead of saying, damn you VA, you can't do it? I mean, there's just so much out here. And so part of what we did was, if we can't, if for some reason there's an individual that is not able to get the help that they need to get the VA, or if he or she's been given a wait time of a really long time, how can we get them seen in the community?
Yeah.
Until they're able to get into the VA system. Because also with your VA benefits, you have to, for a select few, you have to have a record of getting seen for you to then, if you need to increase benefits. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on, and we understand this and we know it. And so it's, when we run across a veteran and I'm asking them, hey, how are your benefits at the VA, or how's your VA experience going? And if it's terrible, well, tell me about it. Because if I hear, well, I'm not going to this and I'm not going to that, well, why is it terrible? Is it more you because you're not going? And I know how to ask the tough questions, and I'm not going to sit there and coddle them.
Sure.
Yeah. Hold them accountable.
Well, you're giving them you're doing a disservice if you and this is one of the things that I've learned about therapy, is it's not necessarily that being pushed forward sometimes is what you need. It doesn't coddling and, like you said, or trying to comfort somebody through something isn't necessarily going to work. Like with me, it's not something that's there was an attempt in the beginning to try and say, oh, it's okay that you don't, that you've created this mental block. It's okay that this is, but one of the things that we do is trying to push forward is being reminded of what it was that happened during that time period to try and spur those memories to come back. But yeah, so I totally understand that. You can still be empathetic and be emotionally attached to somebody without, constantly trying to put your arms around them.
It's the idea of being person-centered and calling out cognitive dissonance. But I think Diaz said it earlier. One of y'all had mentioned that it's critical that you individualize your care, right? Every shoe isn't going to fit. You're not going to vibe with every single clinician, and there may be a treatment style that is more effective for you. The goal is get your foot in the door, give it a go, get connected to therapy, and then also have that layered support of being connected to these community resources that offer that real wraparound care. Because something that can be potentially life-changing is for folks that have lost loved ones to suicide, whether they're military connected or not. They get connected to the lost community through American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. They go to Out of the Darkness walks. They find another tribe of support. So you can't just think like in this room. And I think it's important for us to note that those types of care and resources, especially in the interim of waiting out, being able to get that VA support is really critical. So having that hope there to know that 60% of client change is being connected to a therapist, like just get in there, talk it out. Like you said earlier, your therapy was talking to, fellow survivors in in the ICU. Like that's huge. Saves lives.
There's a nonprofit that's a startup here in the area. Let me give them a shout out, but it's called Fidelis Family Retreat, and I know they'll kill me if I'm getting them wrong, but it's here just giving them a shout out. And what they do is they have found they've picked a niche where, like fireworks. I don't know how it affects you.
I love them. I'm a combat engineer, man. I love to blow stuff up.
But see, I was with an engineering unit as well. But for me, if I don't know that it's coming, I'll jump.
Sure.
It used to be back when I was, this was 06, 7, 8, 9 time frame where at fireworks I might be on the ground just taking cover because it's just natural reaction. That's what you do to survive. Why wouldn't you do that?
Right. Except in your situation where you literally threw yourself
just jumped on top of it.
In the moment of survival, you said no. Let me cover for everyone else.
Let me just sit here. Hey. But you can't. You don't want to live life always just being afraid of something.
Yeah, sure.
And are just saying, well, I'm avoidance because we're really good at that. We're really good at avoidance, and then you realize through therapy, like avoidance is a way of you have issues because you're avoiding things. And you're like, oh, well, that makes sense. And so we think that we're just being hard because I'm just avoiding it and not have to deal with it. And that's not the right way of dealing with it. And so I just wouldn't go to shows where I knew there were fireworks, or I wouldn't participate. But I didn't want to live my life that way. I wanted to enjoy fireworks. I wanted to do stuff like that. And what I did was I would go to shows that I knew there would be fireworks at, and I would sit there and I would take it. And I didn't know that I was participating in exposure therapy.
Yeah, you were doing exposure therapy. I'm like sitting here, dude, like my eyes were getting like
you're an idiot. Shut up.
I'm like, you're doing prolonged exposure with yourself in a safe space. And, I think that's incredibly brilliant that it's something that's intrinsic for you.
It was the same things with crowds. I had a counselor at the hospital, at the VA hospital, not VA, but at Bethesda, where I was at. And he said, hey, I'm going to try something. And I said, all right, whatever. And we would go to this one place in D.C. where is primarily a Muslim population. And he would make me go into a mall where the people would be traditionally dressed in their Muslim garbs. And I looked and was like, no, I'm not doing that. Are you crazy? Because it's just instinctively I can't go in there because I don't know. It would take me back to when I was in Iraq, and then you wouldn't know if someone's got their whole, and I don't say I don't want to upset anybody, but a hijab, I think, did the whole dress, where you couldn't see anything but maybe eyeballs, and you wouldn't know if there was a male under it, or you wouldn't know if it was a female with explosives, because they would do that. It's smart. Put yourself in their shoes. That's smart.
What they call it, suds? Your suds?
Yeah.
Your no, like the level of anxiety.
Yeah.
We talk about like when you're in a situation like that, and you're like, "Where your suds at? Where's your suds at?" And you're like, "I'm at 100," which means that I can't stand the situation I'm in. I got to get out.
I think it's critical that we point out, though, you had a trained clinician that was with you when you were like slowly putting yourself into these safe situations that
but it was
were
definitely off
reflective
textbook. He ended up getting in trouble for a lot of this, but he knew what worked.
Yeah.
And so he would, so what we did is a few times a week, I would make it to the door and come back to the car. Then I would make it to 2-3 shops in, and I would come back outside. Then it was make it to the food court, then come back. Go to the food court and eat something, then come back. But it wasn't, hey, you couldn't make it to the door, you're a failure.
Right.
And so it was just constant, and I give him a shout out for this. He ended up getting in trouble, but I give him a shout out for this because it has helped me. I mean, even being where we're at, like we can Andrew can't see the door, and
I
maybe
got my back to the door.
and maybe he doesn't realize that he did that or not. But that is a form of almost exposure therapy or prolonged, where I know normally I would probably be to my back to the wall where I can see that and I can see all the exits, and we're sitting there bouncing our leg up and down because we're waiting for something bad to happen.
Sure. I hate not being able to face the door.
I normally do too, but like kind of what Steven said, I tend to always sit with my back to the door now, just so that I can revel in it almost. Not revel, but like,
It's kind of like there might be a danger, and but I like to also feel not completely get rid of that, because I don't want to feel that if there is a threat in the room that I'm going to be someone that's going to take care of it.
Sure.
Yeah. No, but I mean, those are just some of the things that I went through that helped me. That, going back to a few questions ago, where your average service member who did their time regardless if it was combat or not, and then just came back home, and then they're expected to just flip a switch, and I didn't get that, and so that's what makes, I guess, my journey a whole lot different. But recognizing those tools, that journey, and then helping, using that to help other service members out, knowing that, and that all played a role into Hidden Wounds, and we thought it was the perfect name at that time. There was nothing. There was really no nonprofit that was doing anything like that.
And from outside of Hidden Wounds, as far as like community efforts to assist in Hidden Wounds, do they take donations? Is there any volunteer work that someone who isn't necessarily military, is that available?
Yeah, so I mean, donations, obviously. So what we do with the funds that we receive is we pay for the counseling. So if there's a service member who did their time, got out, doesn't rate VA benefits, or maybe their disability rating doesn't allow them to be able to get TRICARE, or they don't have insurance through work, whatever the case. If they come to us for help and we connect them with a provider out in town, and it costs money, then the money that we bring in pays for those treatments.
Gotcha.
And it's not a treatment forever. Like we want you to, so we'll pay for the first 10 treatments. And I'm not saying also that, hey, after that 10 treatment, you're healed. You
Right.
figured it out. No. But we need to figure out where are you at this point to then take the next step, and what are we going to do next?
Sure.
But we also want to make sure that there aren't people taking advantage.
Right.
Is this people are people? It doesn't matter if you're a veteran. I mean, we want to make sure that the funds that people are giving us are playing a role, that we're respecting those funds, and that we're also make sure that you're trying to get better.
Right.
And that what we're doing is working. Because if we have somebody or a type of treatment that's just not working, then we're not going to keep doing that.
Right.
But we're constantly trying to find different resources, or we hear someone telling us, hey, have you tried this? This is awesome. This works. And, oh, I've never heard about it. Kind of like hyperbaric chamber. I didn't know. I know now, but I didn't know that for some people, hyperbaric chamber therapy works for their PTSD.
Wow.
So let me go out and find a provider that offers that in the community. So if somebody like Andrew's talking about, like, hey, man, I've tried everything. I've literally tried everything. Well, have you tried this? No, I haven't heard of that. Well, let's go try it out and see if it works. Yep.
How do you connect with practitioners? Like, if you've got folks that are listeners that are practicing in the community and they want to be able to team up with you, what does that look like?
So it's just going out to places where they're at. There's also a couple of and the organization around are slipping my head right now, but there's statewide events where the providers all get together. We work with a lot of providers who teach the classes at universities, who are teaching these people who are going to into that field, and they know a lot of those. They know a lot of those providers, but it's constantly just talking to the veteran community. Hey, what's working for you? Tell me about it, and let's make it available so that everybody knows about it. And then finding other organizations. I'm very against recreating the wheel. So there's a lot of people who want to help the military community, especially in the area of mental health, who have come up with some great ideas. And instead of taking those ideas and copying them and saying, hey, look, now this is what we do. No, here's some, like this other organization. I never thought about, I knew that fireworks affect me. I never thought about So what this group does is they take veterans to events that 100% there's going to be fireworks there, and they let the veterans know, and then they stay there for the fireworks, and there's a provider on hand just in case somebody needs to. I never thought about doing that.
Right.
So how can I increase the exposure of what they're doing?
No, I love it. I mean, I've had the privilege of being connected in like various ways with Hidden Wounds, but I didn't know that was a pathway. So even I think we can always learn, right? We can always do better, and we should, especially if we're practitioners, advocates, or allies. It's critical that it's okay for us to not know, but don't stay in that not knowing, right?
Agreed.
There's more you can do. Do more. Be better. Be awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like.
Well, I've got links to Hidden Wounds in the show notes, and I also want to discuss Folds of Honor. Because that's another organization that you're.
So that group that I was talking about, Fidelis Family Retreat.
Retreat.
The executive director, Amanda Moore, was getting a chance to meet her, and it's just somebody in the community who's married to a service member who said, "Here's what I've noticed. Here's what's going on." Because somebody, the silent majority, CNN, a few years back, did a great piece on it called "The Uncounted," and it talked about the family that's going through. We don't talk about it. We only talk about the veterans and that community, and yes, we suffer and we struggle, but we never talk about the family members who, I call it secondary PTSD, because they start acting the way that we do. If we're always angry, slamming stuff, throwing things,
right?
Or if we're avoiding certain things, well, guess our family is going to start doing that. The kids are going to start doing that. The spouses are going to start doing that. And we never talk about. So we count. We do a terrible job of counting it, but we count the suicide rate within the military community, but we don't assess and count for the suicide rate within the spouses or the children of the military community.
The associated suicides.
Well,
and
it's hard to define that.
Yeah.
Causation is always difficult in suicide, but it's connectedness, right? Like when you're trying to kind of piece back together and do analysis, it's critical to think about those types of connections and why we're not doing anything about it.
And so there's a huge connection with, kind of like with the divorced families, where if you come from a divorced parents, the chances of you becoming divorced in your own life is pretty damn high.
Right.
Oh, you're talking about adverse childhood experiences study. It's
the same thing with suicide.
Everybody check it out.
Yeah, it's the same thing with suicide.
The heritability rate when it comes to suicide. So one of the things that came out of the ACEs study, and it was a Kaiser Permanente study. It's a longitudinal study. Just a good read. I highly recommend everybody read it. If an individual was identified with 4 or more adverse childhood experiences, so experience of sexual assault, domestic violence in the home, divorce, they were 20 times more likely to attempt suicide later in life.
Wow.
So when we think about the practical implications of like a bioecological model of thinking about life, our individual mental health and our social context impacts our physical health and our behaviors. And I have such an affinity for hearing you make those connections, because it gives us opportunity to do something and respond and ask those questions. The VA actually has a needs assessment that they're doing for 2022 right now, where veterans in active duty can go on to access this questionnaire to discuss these kinds of things and have a voice. And in research, that whether they're statewide or national needs assessments, they are critical in what guides our work. And so I know none of us like to bubble in boxes and take that extra time, but when we do, there are individuals that are working to build programs and connect to resources like Hidden Wounds, acknowledge that those resources exist, and then make large promotions and outreach and awareness campaigns to inform the community. And this is across, regardless of community connection, but it's definitely when we've got these nuanced communities that have very special needs and are very well represented in South Carolina and elsewhere, we need to be mindful that there's those avenues. But folks, we don't know. If you don't know, if you're not in academia, if you're not deep in the weeds, then you're not going to know that those things are out there. But I do think it's important that we talk about that as well.
Yeah, and so we do prevention, where you don't hear a lot is about the postvention. After it happens, who's there for these people? And so there's a group called TAPS, T-A-P-S, Tragedy Assistance Prevention Services. I might have butchered that, but it's TAPS. And they're out of D.C., wonderful organization, and they focus on the after. which is I mean, probably even harder because they're dealing with grief, and so they have these camps for kids called Good Grief Camps for children that they can connect with each other who have experienced similar things. Their parents or some loved one has taken their life, and normally if they didn't have that, they would just feel alone, and the chances of them doing it later on are going to be even higher. So they try to stop it so early on. And that's something that we don't do, and I don't want to do it because there's another group that does it, and they're doing a great job. So I promote them. So TAPS, but so Folds of Honor, which is it's a national organization. They're based out of Oklahoma. We have a state chapter here in South Carolina, and then what we do is the money that's raised goes to create educational scholarships for. It used to be at the beginning Gold Star families. So if you lost someone during their military service, then the entire household would be able to use these funds to go to school.
Gotcha.
Now it has extended to. So we got Gold Star parents. You have veterans who've been severely injured. So you only have to have a disability rating of 80%. Your children would qualify, and then they've also extended that to families who have lost someone to suicide or died by suicide.
Gotcha.
And so that's been big for me because I work with a lot of families who have lost someone and trying to help them. There's not a lot of services out there for them. So this is something letting them know, hey, we haven't forgotten about you.
Right.
We're here to also help you because there's a ton of services out there for active duty for those who have gotten out, for their service members. Well, what about the family? Because if you're only focusing on the veteran and they come home and a lot of the issues that stemmed from the family are still there, they're just going to regress back to
right.
And so we have to make sure we're looking out for the family as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So I also have links to Folds of Honor in the show notes as well. So if anybody wants to check that out, I assume that they operate. This is a nonprofit that operates on donations as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but both of them, Hidden Wounds, Folds of Honor, TAPS, Fidelis. I mean, all of these are all private donations, and of course, corporate or government grants.
Gotcha.
And Folds of Honor, it's not just for secondary, right? It's for primary school as well.
Yeah, kindergarten all the way up to we have recipients who go out throughout the country who are from South Carolina, who have gotten their doctorate and master's degrees. Who are recipients, their family, or they've lost someone.
That's incredible.
This helped pay for their scholarships, who were out just telling their story, and so it lets the families continue to share the story of whatever struggle that they were dealing with, the family members. Because if not, I mean, we're just burying it inside, and we're already good at that as humans.
Yeah.
We're excellent at doing that, and that just makes the issues even worse.
Yeah, I agree. I really appreciate all of you all being on the program and definitely discussing your experiences. Is there anything else that you would like to say? Because I think there's a lot of things that just go unspoken when it comes to being a veteran or being active military.
Yeah.
There is definitely this idea that if they're in the military, then they're just it's go all the time, and it's not. We're all human beings. We all suffer the wounds, regardless of whether they're visible or not. And I think that's important for people to know. But just from your own aspect, is there anything like that you would want to say? Just beg my pardon. I'm direct. This is because I've known Andrew now for almost a year, and that's one thing that I can almost set the time to, is that if someone asks him a question that allows for him to give his opinion, it's coming through.
I love it.
But that's one of those things about that I know from my friends in the military, is that there isn't this idea that they're going to hold back, because you hold back, then there's information that might not come out that's necessary in order to deliver what needs to be delivered.
But I've got a few things. One for, I guess, a couple things. So
we're going to leave out the Hitler stuff before too, just so you know. I'm going to cut that out.
That's good. So I think for like fellow veterans, I think like the big thing for me is just you got to keep moving.
Yeah.
And it's a concept that is kind of trained in us. You got to keep moving. If you stop, you die.
Yeah.
And so with that, what I mean by that is like if you need help, you got to move to help. You got to seek the help. You can't stay in the position you're at, or you're going to be overtaken.
Right.
Right. So you got to keep moving forward to progress. So don't be afraid to move forward. And there's help out there.
Yeah.
There is. Like I've been through the VA system, and I've heard war stories. And I'm not saying that they're not true, because I've talked to many veterans who, in their VA system, it's not that good. But here in Columbia, I've been at the Dorn VA. I've been taken very well care of.
Yeah.
I've had no issues as of 2021 when I started, or 2020 when I started. It was great. Treated very nicely. Given the help I was needed. Whatever I asked for, they were. They received it and they helped me out. I guess my big thing too is really just from the civilian perspective, is that like veterans, we don't need to be coddled.
Sure.
And I think that's kind of the misconception from the civilian side, is these are to handle us with these as delicate beings. Like, we're resilient, we're hard, we've been to war. We can do things that others can't. Like, we pride ourselves on our resiliency. It's one of the traits that I think employers seek, is that ability to take on hardship,
right, and
be able to come through. And I'd say from like the civilian perspective is just don't coddle. You don't need coddling, and if anything, that's probably more of a hindrance than it is helping. Push. Don't coddle.
Okay.
Push us. We'll move.
Yeah.
Like Steven said, especially like the younger veteran, like maybe like the did one stint in the military. Maybe made the sergeant, maybe not. They're used to being pushed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Push. Don't coddle. So
we'll march in line.
Yeah. We'll march. Yeah.
So from a mental health aspect,
So regardless of any conversation that we have in mental health, the foundation has to be believing in the people that you're serving, knowing your population, asking the appropriate questions to meet someone where they're at, and also making sure that we are aware that we are our own advocates. And in a crisis, there are resources. We can't talk about mental health and suicide prevention without talking about the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 1-800-273-8255, 1-800-273-TALK. You also have the United Way, where you can text HELP, HOPE for SC, to 741-741, or just HELP across the nation, and a trained crisis counselor will be there. We're here for you. We hear you. We want to walk alongside you. Your pain matters, and you deserve to be able to thrive. You deserve to be the badass that you are, whether you are currently active duty or you are now walking among us as a quote-unquote civilian. Like, be a badass. Getting support for your mental health is continuing your badassery, and there's plenty of us out there that want to cheer that victory on.
That's great. Anything else you want to?
Yeah, I when I run across veterans who I just don't know how to ask for help, I'm just not ready yet, a lot of self-defeatism, I tell them, well, go out and find something that's bigger than yourself and give your time, volunteer your time. It doesn't matter if you served. I think this is for both military, non-military, it doesn't matter. Go out in time and find a community that's struggling in something. Find out how to help them, because I think it's in human nature of us that once we're able to assist someone else and be helpful, then we realize that the stuff that we're struggling with just isn't as bad.
Right.
Sure. These people are really struggling, and I get to go home and I don't have to deal with what they're going through. I think it really opens your eyes. It helps you. It makes you want to reach out and say, well, I am struggling with these things. As I'm here helping these people, let me find out who's helping me, and especially those of us in the military. Andrew was talking about earlier. I mean, we're the first all volunteer force that has fought as long as we have. Other than the Revolutionary War, there hasn't been a military like us, and so most of the individuals who who volunteered, I mean, we're already people who want to give and want to give back. That's just our nature. If we believe it or not, we did. No one told us to go join.
Right.
We felt that there was something in us. I happen to do this, or maybe you wanted free school money. I don't care.
But that's a good incentive.
Altruism is healing.
I think so. And not interrupt. And I'll let you jump back. But one of the things I think that would drive the United States as far as recognizing that it isn't just you can't just take with the United States is I fully believe there should be some sort of civil requirement. It probably just from the age of 18 to the age of 24, that they're in that time span, that 18 to 24-year-olds in a 2-year time span maybe do some sort of civil service, whether it's military, or they go to work for a municipal or a county or a government, something like that. That way they are putting into the system that is providing for them. Even though I know we all pay taxes, but there has to be more of an involvement and understanding how the system works, how the United States works. I get that people don't want to recognize, on the right, that we are a socialistic community. This experiment of democracy hinges on the fact that we are part of a socialistic group, and in order to make that successful, everybody has to put in, everybody has to take out, and military is just one of those aspects of putting in. You're sacrificing your time and your life and your mental stability. I mean, it's all encompassing. But I have advocated for the need to there to be some sort of a civil program that young people are involved in before they go out into whatever job. And if you do it, make school free. Your university classes are now free because you put in 2 to 4 years of some sort of civil. But yeah, that's anyway. I apologize. That was just something that.
I mean, and it just overall makes you a better human being.
Yeah. That experience.
Because you gain empathy from it.
Yeah.
Because you see people in struggle.
Yeah.
And especially when you deploy overseas, you see people in struggle. Like you see these people who are literally fighting for whatever it is that they're believing in, and you're there to help. You know, in some fashion, you're there to help.
You can access experiences akin to like identifying that folks are struggling here in this. I mean, there's plenty of communities in South Carolina. There's plenty of entities and agencies and opportunities to engage in altruism, which is absolutely phenomenal for your mental health. But there's need here. So whether it's I am built to engage and be deployed overseas, or maybe my strengths are going to be stateside, engaging and being a resource here in South Carolina. I mean, just go out and help, man. That's the message. That's the message that I heard. Like, embody the spirit of caring. Like, kindness matters in every way. If we could be a kinder society, we would have far less issues.
Totally agree.
Kinder but aggressive.
Kinder but aggressively kind.
Aggressively
I love
kind.
that.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yes.
That
With
works.
consent.
That works.
With consent.
Take this gift.
Be kind but be dangerous. That's
All right, thank you guys for being here. Taylor Davis, again, with the University of South Carolina Mental Health Research. Andrew Brazzel is a platoon sergeant.
No, now I'm a master sergeant.
Master sergeant.
Yeah, I'm in the S2, the Intel section.
I play Halo. I know. Congratulations.
So essentially, I don't do anything.
Look,
you deserve it. You put in the work.
That's what I said. I've been in a line company now for, and anyone who's in the military knows what I'm talking about. So I've been in a line company for about 18 years.
Yeah.
And I got a promotion, and they put me in a battalion, and I feel like it's kind of like the retirement home almost. Yeah. I feel like,
Good job.
Yeah. Good job.
So, Master Sergeant, thank you. So, thank you very much for your service as well. Taylor Davis as well, and Stephen Diaz, thank you very much for your service and the sacrifice, of course, that you made.
As always, thank you, Neek the Geek, engineer and producer, owner and operator of GOT Sound Studio. Check out details on how you can utilize his talent and production expertise at gotsoundstudio.com. Thanks to Muff the Producer. You can follow him on Instagram at Muff the Producer. Thanks to Shiana Rivers for our intro and outro. Follow her podcast, Who You Callin' Holistic. As well, thanks to Trent Clark, aka DJ Lonzo, currently entertaining the main course in Columbia, South Carolina. Make sure to go by, have a good time. You can contact Trent for all your entertainment needs. Trent at theallaboutnothing.com and on Instagram at TheRealDJLonzo or by phone 803-262-7982. If you enjoy the show, consider becoming a patron by visiting our website and clicking on the link at the top of the browser. That will take you over to our Patreon page. You can find details on how you become a supporter. You can check out our benefits there or just consider a donation so that we can continue to bring you this nonsense. We enjoy doing it. We enjoy you enjoying it. As always, you can follow us on Facebook. Just search for All About Nothing US, on Twitter and Instagram at AAN_pod, or find links to all of our social media and available podcast platforms by visiting theallaboutnothing.com. If you'd like to be heard on the show, you may call and leave us a message, 803-672-0533. If the time between these episodes is too far apart, you can fill that time by checking out our partner podcasts. Zach and I host What the Pod Was That with Carrie Simmons, available on most of your podcast platforms. You can visit whatthepodwasthat.com for links and details. Carrie and Chrissy host Status Macabre on most of the podcast platforms as well. Find details at statusmacabre.com. As well, you can check out our own DJ Lonzo's Top 5, hosted by Trent Clark, available on most of your podcast listening platforms.
Thank you again, guys, for being on the program.
Appreciate it.
And happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July. Yep.
Want to also thank, of course, Transmission Arcade for letting us record from the location here. Open. They're only closed on Tuesdays now, so make sure to come by Transmission Arcade, 1712 Main Street, Columbia, South Carolina. That is going to do it. Everybody, you all stay safe and have a great week.
To support the show, please visit theallaboutnothing.com for links to social media, merchandise, and more. Become a patron of the show by following the Patreon link at the top of our page. The All About Nothing podcast is an entertainment product of Barrett Gruber. Special thanks to Zach King, Trent Clark, Muff the Producer, Neek the Geek, and you, our listeners. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share. If you're on YouTube, please hit the like button and the notification bell. Thank you for listening.